Good evening. This is John Decker with Tennessee Baseball Report. I spoke with Jim McGuire this morning as he was named the 7th head coach in Volunteer State baseball history. We spoke about several things for about 13 minutes or so. We talked about the Pioneer program, JUCO baseball in Tennessee, and how he was going to approach recruiting. Enjoy it, and remember, Tennessee Baseball Report is your one-stop shop for Tennessee JUCO baseball.
Hey, well, congrats, man. Congrats.
Well, I appreciate it.
Well, it was a long process. It started way back. I know Bobby was kind of frustrated, and I know there's been a lot of people, I've been talking to that were just like, who's going to get this thing, man? They were really, really inquisitive about what was going on. I just had one contact me by text this morning. So what about the process? It was kind of long, wasn't it?
It was long and kind of a tedious type thing. And, that happens sometimes in searches and trying to hire, coaches are really trying to hire anybody through the state system. I understand how it all works, having been in it a long time. And, when Ryan announced that, that he was, leaving to go to Cumberland in April, I think everybody thought it would probably go fairly quickly at that point, but It doesn't always, work out that way. And you just, I was just trying to stay patient through the whole process, like I'm sure everybody else was, and, always trying to line up in your mind, what it would be like if you get the opportunity, where you're not caught off guard, but then also being realistic that you don't know really exactly what's going on behind the scenes, and you just want to stay with it and stay after it and hope it works out.
I hear you, man. Bobby told me he had like 115 people that applied for the job. So he said they were really trying to go through each application, to give everybody a fair shake and that type of thing. So that takes time to do those things, for sure.
It does, and I think it's important. I think that's important to do that type of stuff. So in the end, I'm glad that they did all that, because I think that it makes everybody feel better about the the outcome and the process itself.
Yes, and let me ask you this: why? And I know you've coached for years, and what was it that kind of sparked your interest towards Volunteer State?
Just I've been around it for so long, and have had, and like I have a lot of the other junior colleges, but probably Vol State even more than others, just because having recruited so many players there over the years, in relationships with Kenny Thomas and Jeff Smith and Mike Crosland and Ryan Hunn, and just, being up there a lot, being around the program, it just always, intrigued me. Nice facility, great location, and a very good tradition, and it just drew me to it, and after I talked to Ryan about it, even in April, of kind of what the situation was going to be, it got me even more interested in it. And, I played for his dad. I played for Woody at Cumberland and talked with him quite a bit about it too. And, all those factors, kind of played into it on my side. I mean, I definitely, have enjoyed what I've been doing the last few years, working with a lot of younger players and trying to help develop them. But kind of my heart has always been in college baseball. And when an opportunity like this, comes along, I think you got to try to take it when you get that chance and try to get in the mix and see what happens for you. But it's always been one of those places I think everybody looks at, the proximity to Nashville and the players that they've had come through there and the success that they've had as a program. I think all those factors, definitely for me, but I think that's why you had 115 people apply for it too.
Yeah. Well, Sumner County has produced a bunch of good baseball players over the years, and so you got a great recruiting base just right in your backyard to start with. So, you got Mount Juliet area right over there next to you. So, And then you got the Cumberland connection, obviously, with Ryan. So I guess you guys can kind of, talk and work together with things like that when you see guys that might fit one place or the other. So,
well, you're always trying to use any connection. Yeah, any connection like that you can use, you're going to try to use. And, what you're saying is exactly what I've been thinking, the whole time on the recruiting process is, you want to start from the inside and go out, not the outside and try to come back in. So, definitely want to try to work as hard as I can or we can as a coaching staff once I can get that put together to really try to spend time, locally and try to see if we can keep some of those kids at home and then try to work out from there, and I think that's going to be important. And not everybody's going to stay at home. When I was at MTSU, everybody from Murfreesboro went to MTSU. It doesn't work like that. And I understand that. But I think working locally and in the area, to try to spend a lot of time there before you try to go too far away, I think that only makes sense to try to process it. Because you're right, there's very good baseball talent in the area. There always has been, and there always will be. There's been a lot of development over time, and we had a lot of players from that, in the area that have been, in our organization, that I've been involved with, and you can really see that. There's a lot of good players that that are there. You just gotta try to stay after them and see if you can get them.
I hear you. Now let me ask you this. I know and I've talked with most of the coaches in the conference about this. The changes in the scholarship situation. I still really don't have a full grasp on how all that stuff's working, but I know it did change. And Ryan was telling me they've had to do some creative things, to get kids in there as far as money wise. Have you looked at any of that to just kind of see how that works at this point?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I've looked at it and talked with Bobby and talked with Ryan about it as well. There is some challenges with it, but there's some things to work with there as well. And they've. I'm not saying nobody ever figures anything out totally. I understand that, but they have figured out ways and avenues to try to be able to get players in there and get good players in there. That's the thing too. The roster is not bare. It's not one of those situations.
No, I would say, definitely as Ryan has stayed there, his roster's gotten better, I think, every year. They had a really quality club this year.
They did, and they had a great second half, and you could, just following it from afar. I really didn't. I only got to see them play one doubleheader earlier in the year, but you could see how they were getting better and better as they went. In the second half, they were really good. But I have looked into all those things, and I know, again, every place you're going to be has some challenges and some things, but there's definitely things to work with, and there's avenues to get players in there and make it a good experience and make it financially affordable for them as well by trying to maybe do some other things. And but I do think, obviously I didn't think it was doable. I wouldn't be in this position. So I do feel like there's something to work with and be able to get the players in there that you want.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, talking about that, recruiting-wise, what you've been doing hit after hit, has that allowed you to see some of these older guys that kind of give you a good idea on maybe some early recruiting ties or anything like that?
Yeah, I think very much so. I think the one thing that will really benefit me going forward is, with let's just use, for example, like the 2022 class and 23 class, we have multiple teams in our organization at those levels. And so I've been with them a lot, not just in our organization, but have seen them play a lot and seen them play a lot of other teams in the area. And and I was able to see a lot of high school games over the last few years too, even though COVID got us, the year before. I still spent a lot of time, I guess you'd still call it being on the road, even though I was just out, watching our kids play. So I do feel like I've got a pretty good handle, not just in the area, but, outside the area as well, and, in East and West Tennessee. And I'm also doing, and I'll be involved in this next week, I'm also doing some work with USA Baseball and the NTIS series that'll get ready to happen here in August in Cary, North Carolina. So I'm one of the regional scouts for that. So I've had a lot of access to, 15, 16-year-old players, but also now we're getting a little younger there when you get younger than that. But But the connections and the things that I've started to establish there, I think will be all positives, as well. So, even though I wasn't in college coaching these last few years, the Outlaws and the organization have allowed me to really get connected in a lot of different ways to a lot of different people and still maintain my contacts at, the Division I level and Division II, because I was working to place players out of the organization too, at all different levels, from Division I, II, III, NAIA to several of the guys who are on the team, at Ball State.
Yes.
So, but that's what makes it, I think, really intriguing to me to kind of take what I've had from my past, but take what has went on the last few years and then be able to apply it, into this position where I think it can be a benefit, from everything all the way around to identifying players, to understanding families and everything like that as you're trying to go through the recruiting process.
Right. Well, I know this is probably one of the toughest conferences in America, with Walter State. Of course, Robert White down at Dyersburg's killing it. And just, it's just very good. And I know that because you recruited a lot of those kids when you were at middle. So what do you think about that, coming into that?
Well, it's difficult. You're right. It's a very tough league, and everybody gets after it. Everybody's got good players, and you gotta stay after it to keep up. That's number one. And then you just want to battle as much as you can to be as competitive as you can be, and continue to whether you're saying upgrade the roster or keep getting players in there that'll allow you to compete at a high level. And what Walters did this past year and what Dyersburg did, with all the restrictions and under COVID and everything else, I mean, it was unbelievable the year that those two teams had. And hopefully everything will get back to normal where you can play, we'll be able to play a normal schedule in the spring.
Yeah.
And then I think it'll be an opportunity where everybody plays everybody, and that kind of gives you a better idea of what everybody's about. It's a very weird year and a tough schedule with the way they were doing it, having to play everybody so many times. It was really tough. It was really tough from talking to all the coaches. But I know all the coaches in the league, and some of them I've known for, Mike Policastro and Greg Dennis, and guys that I've known, Mike Korn at Columbia, and I've known a lot of these guys, Dave Shelton, forever, and recruited a lot of their players, and know them all on a personal level too. And from Eric Schoenrock, who I tried to recruit when I was coaching, so there's a lot. And Robert White, I've got a connection to as well. So, and Cam at Roan. So it'll be interesting. It'll be different for me because I've always been on the other side of it with these guys, and was on the other side of it for these last few years as well. And Coach Winders at Jackson, he's got a couple of our players too that have been in our organization that are going there, and I've gotten to know him better too. So it'll just be different going against him and competing and that part of it. But it'll be fun. That part of it will be fun as well. And try to be on the other side of it this time and see what it's like being in their shoes.
Well, congratulations again on this job.